back. Gary and Cam still with you on Hot Roster today. The matchups revealed, and now we reveal one of our favorite guests on this show, that being Corey Parson, the fantasy executive now of Fantasy Sports Radio. Congrats, Corey.
Thanks a lot, fellas. Happy to be on board, be a part of the family. Get ready to get some good fantasy sports content out to the users out there.
So much talking to Jake Seeley. You must be so excited.
I love it. Jake is my BFF.
Yeah. Let's start breaking down this Hot Roster Today card number 2, the second card of the week for the show, Corey. And we get a interesting tight end matchup and a weird week for tight ends, especially if you're playing the Millie Maker on DraftKings because you don't get that Monday night game. But we have Kyle Rudolph against the Lions against Jimmy Graham going up against Buffalo on that Monday nighter. But no Jordan Reed, no Gronk, no Tyler Eifert. Like, these are the guys you're looking at this week in tight end. So people are curious who's going to win this one-on-one battle. Obviously, Detroit, and picking on Detroit this season has been pretty good for any opponent, regardless of position, but especially tight ends. They've given up the most fantasy points to tight ends. That isn't a PPR, though, and Hot Roster obviously is not a PPR standard scoring. So maybe that changes your opinion here. Graham is a 1-point underdog. Which direction are you leaning?
You know what? This is a very interesting one right here. Of course, you look at the scoring format with no point per reception. Obviously, I don't know what's going on in Minnesota with Nov3 stepping down this week. Sometimes I look like situation if you know, where there's smoke there's fire, and I'm looking at this Rudolph matchup. This almost looks too good to be true, and a plus matchup against the Detroit Lions. So I'm gonna go the other way, and I'm gonna take Jimmy Graham. I think Jimmy Graham breaks Pater, gets in the end zone, not to mention the fact I also think he puts up more yards than Kyle Rudolph.
Yeah, I got to believe, too, Gary, and too, Buffalo, they're going to try to run, and Seattle's going to stop. I see a lot of Seattle possessions in this game. I don't see Buffalo doing too much offensively.
I got to believe Russell Wilson might throw a touchdown at some point in his life.
It would be nice. Trust me, it would be nice.
It's going to help. It's going to help Jimmy Graham.
It will help. Hey, Corey, let's talk about this one. We got Brandon Marshall versus Beckham Jr., and you look at the spread, and Beckham Jr. is a pooch. You're not going to get that very often. Marshall, 4 for 68, no touchdowns in his last game. Beckham had a great matchup in London against the Rams. Didn't really do much, 5 for 49, no touchdowns. Basically, that's a fantastic matchup. He should have done more damage there. But sometimes we have to look at the numbers in the matchup. Am I seeing something here? Beckham as a dog? I'm kind of leaning Marshall going up in a revenge spot against the Miami Dolphins. What do you think there? I'm actually leaning Marshall.
The Marshall play is interesting. He's the favorite, and I can definitely see it. And you're looking at Odell. Matter of fact, the matchup is not as easy, but Philadelphia, you can get a little bit of action at them. The front seven is stout, but you can get some action at them on the back end, especially a play of Odell Beckham's talent. But here's a kicker right here, fellas. This is Odell Beckham's birthday weekend.
Uh-oh.
The past 2 seasons on his birthday weekend, he has went absolutely bananas. So I'm going to take Odell Beckham in this competition. Sometimes, fellas, it's not all about the numbers, it's about the intangibles. 2 years ago against the Colts, he dropped 8 receptions for over 160 yards. Of course, last year was the game against the New Orleans Saints. We remember how that went with the 200 yards and the touchdowns. So Odell Beckham is my guy on his B-Day weekend.
Yeah, a lot of guys. So obviously he's not going the other way. Some guys on their B-Day are going to be partying and looking a little bit sluggish. You're saying he's going to be, coming up with a new dance, maybe a new routine with the net or something new in his repertoire.
I'm with you. I thought that was going the entirely other direction. I thought we were talking about a hungover Odell Beckham Sunday morning at the 1 o'clock.
Corey threw a loop for us there.
Hey, I'm talking about Odell Beckham, not J.R. Smith.
That's true. Hey, man, him taking off his shirt started the rally last night. There's magical powers about J.R. Smith's chest.
There's something about J.R. Smith.
I don't know, man.
He likes to party.
Right now it seems like Jay Ajayi might have magical powers as well. 2 straight 200-plus yard rushing games. Maybe people have forgotten about him a little bit with Miami on bye last week. But for as bad as that Jet defense has been so far this season, they have not allowed much to running backs. In fact, 80% of the yardage gained against the Jets this year has been through the air. This is the highest percentage of any team in the NFL. So not a great matchup for Ajayi. Also not a great matchup for Frank Gore, who gets the Packers. And we've talked ad nauseum about how often the Packers have shut down opposing running backs a lot better and a lot younger than Frank Gore, to be perfectly honest. So 2 guys in tough matchups. Gore gets the 2 points here. Are you kind of just riding out with Ajayi?
You know, the thing about it is so funny is at what point in the season do we as fantasy owners, fantasy players, stop sleeping on Jay Ajayi? And this is a situation going up against Frank Gore in this matchup. Both matchups are daunting. You know what? I want to say Frank Gore, but I just think they keep pounding that rock, They want to get him the football. This is a tough call right here. Ajayi with the 2 points, but I'm going to take Jay Ajayi because at some point we are going to have to stop sleeping on him. This kid is starting to get it done.
I know,
No,
Gary,
definitely.
and you're a big Dolphins fan, and they say we got to.
Don't tell people that. It's one of my most embarrassing features.
Don't be embarrassed. Don't be embarrassed. But they basically said they're worried about Ajayi's workload because just in the style that he runs and everything like that. But hey, man, you got to keep on riding the hot hand. Let's talk, Corey. We got Kelvin Benjamin versus Allen Robinson. We could call this the battle of underachievers. In Robinson's, in his defense, he's got Blake Bortles throwing him the ball. And there's a difference between fantasy and reality. That first half against Tennessee, it sucked. But anyway, he got it done. But Benjamin, 6.6 fantasy points in his last 5. That's brutal, but a good news situation going up against the Rams. They've given up 8 touchdowns in the last 5 weeks to receivers. I'm going to lay it down with Kelvin Benjamin. I just can't wait for Robinson to break out because of Bortles. Sign me up with KJ. Who do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with KJ, with KB on this one, too. I think Kelvin Benjamin is the play right here. Like you mentioned, those stats against that defense out there. So I'm looking at that as a situation where they can take advantage of it. I think the Carolina Panthers are a team that you're going to see some good things from in the second half as they play with their backs against the walls. The situation in Jacksonville is crazy. Obviously, we've seen shake-up. And then Blake Bortles this week brings in his quarterback guru, Adam Dedeaux, to work with him. Stop it. Give me a break. Listen, for some odd reason with Blake Bortles, the fantasy points are always there. This guy's been terrible. You ever watch one of these Blake Bortles games?
Oh, I do.
This guy is pitiful.
Really try to avoid it.
I don't care if he scored 40 fantasy points this week. I just can't go with Blake Bortles. I can't go with Blake Bortles, so I have to stay away from my man Allen Robinson and go with Kelvin Benjamin on this one. They're just not getting it done. Hopefully it does turn around, but I'm not too optimistic with the way Bortles is performing.
And boys, hey Corey, here's one for you. Wow, I'm a 5th-year NFL quarterback. Maybe you wanted to solve some of these issues when you're at UCF. Like, who does this 5th year into their career? Oh, I got bad mechanics. Like, figure it out, dude. It's ridiculous. Hey, Bortles, figure it out.
Halfway through the season, mind you.
Yeah, so 4.5 years. Corey, we got about 30 seconds here, so quick matchup to wrap this thing up. Actually has some action tonight on this. Darren Sproles is a 1.5-point underdog to Antone Smith, who's probably going to be the starter against Atlanta. Sproles, though, really seems like he's the guy in Philly now. 62 plays to 8 against Ryan Matthews on Sunday Night Football. You going with the known workload with Sproles or the unknown with Antone Smith?
Even without the PPR, I'm going with Darren Sproles in this one. I think that he's the guy that's in favor right now. I think he's going to get the workload. Antoine Smith at 1.5 is too much for me, even though he has that big playability. And guys, we've gotten to this point in the fantasy season where we're talking about Antoine Smith.
I know. It's getting kind of sad.
I love Darren Sproles, though. Every year, guys, like, you know what I mean? You just want to cast it, and he just delivers all the time.
Definitely
True
does.
pro.
Two pretty fast guys, too. Corey, thank you so much, man. Again, you can catch Corey Parson on the Fantasy Sports Radio Network. Thanks for joining us, man.
Thanks a lot, fellas.
Absolutely no problem. And Corey will be back tomorrow.
Corey's awesome.
On Hot Roster today. Corey is awesome. We're going to break down another card with him tomorrow, as I mentioned. And when Cam and I come back a little sooner than tomorrow, we are going to break down some NBA action tonight, do some over-unders as we did yesterday with some guys who will appear on Hot Roster cards.